Coming up on this episode of Flirtations, we got a singer on the show today, y'all, as we're going to be finding our voices or perhaps rediscovering our voices in new ways with our guest, Nick Higgs the Singer. Nick and I will discuss how to connect to the power of your voice to express your true self, communicate your needs, establish boundaries, and build authentic connections. Because let's be real, when it gets right down to it, you have something you want to say. Maybe you just started dating someone, or you've been dating someone for a minute and need to talk about something. Likely some nerves will come up. Maybe some fear, maybe something else. And the emotion of it all may hold you back from speaking your truth. Well, not anymore, as we get confident witnessing the power of our own voices. We'll also talk about how to use your voice and all of its capabilities with tone, pitch, range, volume, speed, and answer your questions about how to speak and flirt with overall more confidence and fun. So get ready to be inspired and empowered as we uncover the secrets to finding your voice in dating and beyond. Let's do this, flirties.
I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. Hello, my name is Benjamin. I'm the flirt coach and a gay Libra. Everyone has an inner flirt.
Hey, flirty.
Live, laugh, flirt.
Work the flirt.
Work the flirt. Delulu is the Salulu. Expert on the flirt.
Hey, flirty. There's always another flirt.
Everyone has an inner flirt. Get out of your head and into the flirt.
Flirties, we have a really cool and exciting topic up for discussion on the show today as we welcome Nick Higgs the Singer onto the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. Someone I know pretty well as we've been working together one-on-one. I was thinking just before hitting record here, going on, is it almost 3 years?
It's almost 3 years. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's
Time
nuts.
flies.
I will share a little bit how I found you and why we started to work together. I think ties into what we're going to be talking about on the show today, as we're going to be tapping into our voices, really tapping into the command of our voices, the ownership of our voices, and just overall how we show up and communicate in dating. It's going to be so important just to feel empowered to speak your mind and speak about where you're at and share with people you're flirting and dating with, where you're at. I mean, communication is paramount, but if you're having some of those anxieties, you're unsure, sort of like you've got some fears, you're sort of holding back. Yeah, a lot of things come up that can really block ourselves from expressing ourselves. So really excited to get into that with you today as we were kind of setting up this episode. And normally I share that the flirt and the date is not really a performance or meant to be performative, but today I think approaching it from that perspective can be really interesting, tapping into our own creative energy, even our celebrity energy, perhaps our attractor energy, our goddess energy, like all these terms, all these energetic terms I know you see out there on social media. I think it could be so fun. So what do you think, Nick?
I think this is exciting. Yeah, this is an interesting conversation to have. How you can use the voice to your advantage in a way. Yes. How you can make the most of first impressions and make the most of yourself using your voice in so many different ways. Yeah. So many different ways that you can use it. Yeah, really exciting conversation.
Yes, a vocal coach on a dating podcast. I bet you've never seen that collab before. We're going to do it. First things first, if you could share with the Flirties a little bit more about yourself, your work, and how long you've been singing.
Oh, I've been singing for a long time. So fortunately, I've come from a pretty musical family. I have 4 siblings and 2 parents that are very musical as well. So I've been singing since I was 5 years old, and taking piano lessons and doing all that stuff. And when I finished high school, I went to university for music. So I did a 4-year undergraduate degree in vocal performance, is what it's called. So classical music is my background.
Yep.
And then when I finished that, I did a 2-year master's in opera performance. So kind of the same thing, but a little more specific into opera.
Yeah.
And I graduated in 2021. So we're looking at the thick of the pandemic.
Yep.
Took a little bit of a pivot in my life and started teaching. And I realized I loved music, but I wanted to be a little bit more creative in my work. So that's when I started doing content creation, which led me to some teaching. And that's honestly where I am now. So I've been singing for a long time. I've been teaching for about 4 years, and you are one of my students for about 3 years, which is unbelievable. And I work with singers, and what's really exciting and interesting is I work with non-singers as well. So I've been doing a lot of work recently on how to use the voice, how to maximize your potential as, I say vocalist as a speaker as well as a singer, but how to maximize your potential as a vocalist. So that's my life. That's what I do.
I love it. Yes. As I found you about 3 years ago, I was in the thick of my coaching training, still in my full-time 9-to-5 job at the time. And I remember I was listening to this one lecture with the Functional Nutrition Alliance was this program I was doing. And the coach, the founder of it all, Andrea Nakayama, was talking about how important your voice is. And she realized that as the person recording all these lectures, all the presentations, having her own podcast, leading a school, creating content, giving in-person workshops at the time, when her voice was taken out of the equation, she couldn't work. And it wasn't just about that. It was about her ability to connect, her ability to also be reflective and listen, which is huge when it comes to coaching. So I love your approach. And I found you, I was like, I opened up TikTok. I had never seen you before. I knew in that moment I wanted to start working with a vocal coach. Yours was the first video I saw, sent that DM, and here we are. Like, I never looked back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I remember those initial lessons with you very fondly, because this was sort of my introduction into working with individuals who weren't singers first. You were one of the first they weren't a singer first. So it was a really exciting avenue for me to go down and explore, just how to communicate what you want to say. And if you can indulge me to have a proud teacher moment for just a second, is that I'm so proud of the work that you've done as a vocalist now to really get your message across. And you've worked really hard to be able to find your voice as you, the person, but also just to be able to convey what you want to teach and what you want to tell people. So good work. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick Higgs the Singer. Yeah, if you all were to look back and scroll back at some of my videos from a couple years ago, or maybe you've been with me for a while, you'll see the way I was showing up on camera and in videos was in no way the way I'm showing up today. I mean, this was, in many ways, working with you has been preparation for the podcast, for my own coaching. You'll see I add a lot of different tones and pitches to my delivery, different speeds and cadences. Like, we work on this in our one-on-one lessons together. And even though I haven't formally sang anything to the people, to the flirties, what we work on and being able to tap into my own voice and own my own voice translates into everything I do, not just my work, but my relationships, when I'm dating, how I flirt. So yes, I'm excited. All right. So I think I want to ask this question up first here, and perhaps in your experience or in your client experience, what are some of the fears and anxieties that come up in some of the lessons? Because I know the flirties we find ourselves holding back at times. You know, there's some fear about really speaking your mind. And I know that's a multi-layered concept, but speaking specifically to the voice, what are some of those fears and anxieties that may come up?
Holding back, that's a big one. It's a big one. People sometimes are afraid to sing too loud. And I don't think it's from a place of like, oh, I might annoy my neighbors. It's just they're kind of scared of what sound is going to come out. If they speak up or if they make that sound, what's going to happen? So that's one of the first major roadblocks. And of course, people are singing at home or they're making sounds in maybe their smaller apartment or something. They don't want to, make too much noise. But I think that they're just scared of what's going to come out. And one big topic for many singers that I work with are high notes. We talk about high notes sometimes, and really and truly, it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the high note itself. Yeah, it has a lot to do with what happens if I get there. Like how do I get there? What do I have to do to get there? And you're kind of scared to take that leap of faith. And you maybe start to think of this language like, I can't do this. I can't get to that note. I can't achieve that. And there's been some amazing breakthroughs of people just saying, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to take that leap of faith. And it works out perfectly. It works out super well. So that's a big thing. I would say, working with singers, especially people who are introverted individuals may be a little less likely to want to really sing out and be theatrical. Because sometimes in lessons, as you know, Ben, I make my singers do some pretty ridiculous things to achieve a certain result. And for some introverted people, you really have to push them and nudge them along to kind of go out there and be out there. Yeah. But once you get past that little roadblock and your confidence goes through the roof, and there's just like a domino effect of positives. And that's why I love singing and I love music so much, is because it doesn't always have to do with the music. It's just it can make you feel good, and it can make you feel like a better person, like you really enjoy yourself more. And I think that's such a huge positive there. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Really good insight. And I relate to that a lot, as that's been my experience, where I have held back and continue to somewhat on the high notes, on being able to be fully expressive and even theatrical, even to have kind of this real element of fun and just freedom with it. It can be challenging, especially if you are introverted, if you're holding some anxiety, if that's been part of your experience and story. And I have a question here from a flirty that I think relates to what we're talking about right now. And they said, how do I be more comfortable witnessing my own voice? It's like, maybe I know what to say. I know what I need to say, but it could be hearing it out loud. It could be maybe the effect it could have on the other person, how it might change dynamics in dating, or just simply speaking your truth, what's on your mind. How to be more comfortable just witnessing the sound of your own voice.
I know. And that's another massive roadblock in that. So I force all of my students to record their lessons, which for some people they're like, I don't know about that. Yeah. And it's honestly, it's a cringe moment for them when they listen back and they go, oh my goodness, that's what I sound like. To actually hear your voice out loud. And most of the time, it's not bad. There's nothing bad about it. It's just a shock to your system, right? So as time goes by, you get more familiar with listening to yourself. You feel more comfortable with it. You're able to wrap your head around it a little bit more, and it gets easier. So the more that you do it, the more consistent you are, the more you practice, those things just make this whole process so much easier.
Yeah. Because you and I both get questions from time to time from clients and people that are maybe interested in exploring content creation or a podcast or YouTube, something like that. And more often than not, what's holding them back isn't necessarily what to talk about or some of the technical aspects of it, like camera angles or lighting. It's, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to watch myself, or more specifically, I'm going to have to listen to myself talk. And I can't do that. It's too cringy. It's too cringy.
I know. And we have to get over, and this is a really hard thing to do. We have to get over the fear of, I'm going to look stupid. I'm going to look ridiculous. I'm going to whatever. And in the first couple of lessons, for many people, that's kind of the first one of the big hurdles too, is they're scared of looking stupid. They're embarrassed to take that next step. And that's why, like, everybody makes fun of theater kids, because theater kids are so over the top and they're just so like in your face. Yeah. But that, they're like that because music can bring you out of your shell. Like, it can really, finding your voice has really brought me out of my shell, brought you out of your shell, and it propels you forward. And I think that's what we all should strive for. Absolutely.
I so agree. And that's the title of this episode today, Finding Your Voice, as something else I think that can be part of the fear and anxiety because I could give you the prompts or the scripts, right? Telling you exactly what to say in each moment, whether it's over text or in person, maybe how to let someone down, maybe how to clearly communicate a boundary or express an expectation, something like that. But when it gets down to it, I can't be in your body for you. I can't have the conversation for you. In person, texting doesn't matter. I can't flirt for you. Then it becomes about what's happening in that moment, what's presenting itself. We've talked about fear, anxiety, some uncertainty. Maybe it's, you don't want to look cringy or embarrass yourself. Something else that applies here for me, and this comes up in the vocal lessons, is fear of the potential. What if you did take a chance on yourself? What if you did take that leap of faith? What if it worked out and then you proved to yourself you could do it?
Yeah, that's another big one, right? What's the next step? What do I do after that? If this happens, that's the classic, what if? What if this happens? What's going to happen next? What happens if I at the very simple, if I sing that high note, what's next? Am I moving on to the next level? I'm scared of that. I'm nervous, right? Yeah. And again, it comes back to, you get used to that level. Maybe it's this, you challenge yourself to go out of your comfort zone a little bit, and maybe then it gets easier each time. Yeah, it's a fear of the unknown that presents itself in singing as well. Singing, finding the voice.
Yeah, and of course, like, you can't always control how someone else may receive a message or how they may react, but I still hope this episode is going to be really empowering, just to use your voice to communicate needs, boundaries, right? Expectations, desires, all of that stuff. So we don't get into those long-term situationships and unless that's what you truly want. But from what I hear from y'all, more often than not, they're not super fulfilling.
No.
Okay, I think stay with this for a couple more moments. I have two more questions here, and maybe if you could share one or two transformations you've seen in your work, from the person that was holding back, they were timid, they were unsure of themselves, and maybe that moment that you saw, they just let it go. They just let themselves fly. They released all the fear, the anxiety, and they just took a chance. If that was a moment, something you've witnessed before, or maybe how you've helped people through that transformation.
Yeah, there's been some really great moments, and big things for me are moments where people just take that extra step and they take a big risk, and they kind of just say, screw it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to let go of my fears for just a moment and try it. And it could be something as simple as maybe they close their eyes. Maybe they just need a moment to be in their own space first before they're willing or before they're able to do it for real. Yeah. And I've worked with so many musicians and colleagues of mine and people who are professional musicians that are trying to overcome stage fright. They're overcoming performance anxiety, trying to overcome all these things that are hindering them. And I think one really great sort of trait that these successful people have is they don't treat the stress and anxiety of it as a hindrance really, or as something that's wrong with them. They just look at it in a different perspective. So I've been performing since I was like 5 years old. I still get performance anxiety. I'm still stressed when I go on stage, but I found ways that make it more manageable for me. And I get more familiar with maybe sort of the sensations of what I'm feeling and how I can approach it so that I can sing and I can perform to the best of my abilities. And I've had to use that in situations where maybe it's not performing in a musical or an opera or a play or anything like that. Just maybe it's like just conversations with people. I get that same kind of performance anxiety, and I have to, sort of implement some of my methods. So the big thing with people, that the big transformations have been those who have just, they've pinpointed what they're struggling with, and they've just, and working with me too, just found methods that help them overcome some of those challenges. And then that allows them to take that extra leap of faith, which makes all the difference. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And set me up so well, as now I'd like to focus on the performance anxiety piece of it. So you're getting ready to, maybe you have an audition, you're about to hit the stage, you're getting ready to record a podcast interview, make a video, or approach a conversation, a flirt, ask somebody out. You need to express something that maybe is bothering you. So, oh my gosh, anxiety nerves coming. One or two strategies for in the moment, starting to work through some of those nerves. Maybe it's closing your eyes, feeling the sensations. Yeah, a few things you could do here.
The big word, breath. Breath is life. And it works on so many levels for musicians and for singers and for sort of managing that performance anxiety too. Yeah. But if you can just, whatever you're doing, whatever's making you nervous, whatever's going on, take a breath first. Like I need a breath right now. Right?
Yeah. I just took a deep one.
Yeah. It just centers you. It just maybe brings you back into the moment a little bit. And, I maybe feel the same way as I'm standing in the wings before a big performance. I get that same feeling maybe if I'm, going to talk to a group of people that I don't know, or if I'm asking someone something that may be a little bit hard to talk about, something like that. So if you can just take a breath and center yourself, that's the number one thing. And for singers, we need that. It's very important for us because we need the breath to be able to speak and to make good sounds, right? So from a what we call vocal technique, which is how we can, in this case, speak in a clear, concise, and beautiful way, we need that breath there. Yeah. Another thing, I always think about the idea of, okay, I've done this before. This is a different context, but I can sort of draw on my past experiences to help me get through that performance anxiety. It's just trusting yourself a little bit more. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people, is that trusting in yourself, that you'll get it done. Yeah. So it really comes down to the breath. If you can just calm your heart rate a little bit, that's going to help you with that performance anxiety, and just keep calm. And breathe, which is not always an easy thing to do. Trust me.
Not always easy, but in those moments where you are feeling super tense and super anxious and stressed, those are the first things to go, your breath and belief. And so really bringing those two things into this practice is going to help you immensely in finding your voice. This is why the Flirt coach is also a yoga teacher. Your breath is so important. And I remember it's like the first time I taught a yoga class during my teacher training, and the breath was the first thing to go as your heart rate is just really getting up there. You're starting to have some of those symptoms and feelings of anxiety, feeling warm, tingly, sort of detached a little bit. It's really important just to calm yourself to the best of your ability. Breath and belief is going to help. So much. And something that has helped me with the mindset piece is you're looking to find your voice. You're coming into a situation, a circumstance where it's like, okay, like I got something to say, whatever it may be, also seeing it as an opportunity. So this is what I do before I'm about to hit record, open up the camera, start a flirtation. I'm nervous every single time. I mean, I've done this now, gosh, at least 40 times. There's not one time that my heart isn't racing, that I have moments of self-doubt. What am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? It's all the things are going through your mind. Then I just take a few moments to breathe, believe in myself as best I can, and see it as like, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity. I get to create this, collaborate on a really cool episode, a topic that I'm excited about with an amazing guest, and then put it out there for the whole world to listen to. That's amazing.
Yeah. And
it's an opportunity.
As musicians, we get so, I mean, we thrive on, we want to perform for people. We want to make a difference in people's lives. And I think the same thing is with, you doing this podcast, or, somebody working at a grocery store or wherever you work,
Yes.
It's, about connecting with people.
Oh my gosh.
That's what we do. That's why we want the voice to be, that's why we want to find it, because we want to be able to connect with people on a deeper level, not just surface level. Like if I'm singing for 100 people, I want to connect with them deeply. I don't just want to sing at them. I want to sing with them. And I think that's a really important distinction. There's a really famous choral music composer. His name's Eric Whitaker. And somebody asked him once about nerves and overcoming stage fright and things like that. And I can't remember the exact quote, but he said, the nerves never really go away. You just become really, really okay with being nervous. I think that's, that's kind of the way it sums up how I feel, at least, because I don't want those nerves to go away, because I want those nerves to be, they're a sign that I care about what I'm doing. This is an important thing. My body's getting ready to do something really focused. I want to be focused on it, but I have those methods now that help me overcome that.
So good. I love it. And I want to give the flirties now. So we're going to spend a little bit of time playing with the voice and really having some fun with volume, with pitch, with tone, with speeds and styles that you can bring into your conversations, that you can use to make connections, whether you're flirting, you're dating, or really just having interactions with people. So I got some questions here just about ways to work your tone of voice. For like this person says, I tend to always speak very monotone. And that can be sometimes that is taken as, oh, I'm not interested, or I'm distracted, or something like that. So for the person that is, has, not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but is having some awareness about that and wants to play with their voice a little bit. How could they play with it?
I mean, you just did right there. How could you play with it? You're high up in the voice, right? I love that. I love that. And, that comes through in your content, which is great. And it just shows such a wide range of emotion. And maybe to just define a term, in case people don't know, we often hear the term vocal range, and that can be a little bit confusing. And it's a really important element of communication and using our voice. So vocal range is how high or how low we can speak or we can sing. So my voice type and your voice type too is classified as like a baritone, so a lower voice. Maybe people have heard like soprano, alto, tenor, those kinds of things.
Yep.
And the vocal range sort of determines where our voice sits. And what we want in conversation is to be able to use pitch. So pitch is how high and how low. And we do this all the time, even if they consider themselves as a monotone singer, a monotonous singer or speaker. It's probably not that bad, because when we ask a question, we go, how are you doing today? Maybe we go up. Or if you say, oh, I'm doing pretty well, and then we go down in pitch. Like humans have this up and down, and different languages have different sort of inflections. So if somebody is struggling with that, I would encourage them just to imagine, this is a little exercise that they can try, is imagine your best friend is just across the street and you're going to go, hey, hey, like you're surprised to see them. It's like, you're like, oh, it's a little bit of a shock, right?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, how's it going? And then if you think of someone like, what's his name? Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. He's got a very low, deeper voice.
Yes.
Just play with that side of your voice too, right? So we need those ups and downs to be able to communicate different emotions that we want to convey, right?
Yes.
So I actually work, one avenue of work that I never thought I would go down is I actually work with ballet teachers to help them learn how to use their voice. So teachers and dancers, they are very much aware of the body, what's going on, because they need to make sure that they're doing get all the right angles, and all those things are working. But the voice is something that's kind of forgotten about a little bit. And so I've been working with them to find their voice, because if you think about working with a 6-year-old and you go, okay, go walk over there and do this and blah, 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 and you're very kind of stern like this, they're not going to respond well to what you're saying. So I work on them to find that higher pitch in their voices so that they can convey the emotions that they want to. So if you're someone who is struggling with the tone of your voice, you feel like you're too monotonous, I think that you should just play with your voice. Maybe you need to do it on your own, because maybe you're a little bit nervous to take that leap and do that experiment. But maybe you can, I don't know, maybe you're out and about at the grocery store, maybe you're somewhere and you see somebody that you know and you just go, oh, hey, hi, how's it going? And maybe you hate it at first, but it's going to get you in the practice of using the highs and the lows of your voice, which it's crucial to use that. Yeah.
So important. Yeah. You can come on to Trader Joe's. We can practice, book a call with Nick Higgs the Singer, and we can role play this all day long. Okay. We're going to spend some more time here playing with the voice, giving people different strategies and techniques just to have fun with it. Because I think that's an important part of this conversation. So I have a question here about, we were talking about vocal range and pitch tone just then. How about volume? Is that, the question here is about when I am approaching a conflict, or I'm just really, really emotional about something, or I'm really passionate about something, I tend to talk really fast and I get really loud, which can perhaps turn someone off, even if I'm not conveying something negative or bad. I get really intense. And yes, the volume, the speed, it goes up, maybe is received, not the way that you're intending. So playing with speed and volume a little bit with the voice. Absolutely. A very common problem or thing that I see with people when they get nervous, what happens? The speed just goes way up. Oh my gosh.
You're like an auctioneer, right?
Yes.
And you don't even realize it most of the time because you're trying to get all of your thoughts out at once, or you're frantically trying to formulate the thoughts in a very short amount of time. So then what happens? The speed picks up. So one method that I like to use is think about the consonants of a word. So if I'm speaking to you and I want to speak slowly and I say the word speak, there's a K in there. And what happens when we speed up is we drop consonants. And then what also happens is we mumble. So not only are we speaking very fast, but we also mumble. So for your listeners that think they might speed up a little bit and they might mumble, they might talk like, hey, how's it going? Then you need to pick up those dropped consonants, right? It'll actually speed you, or it'll actually slow you down without you having to think, okay, I need to talk slowly or else. Oh no. It'll just keep you at a reasonable tempo. So you don't turn into an auctioneer when you're trying to flirt with someone. We don't want that at all, right? And your question about volume, that's another really important thing. So volume is something that we need to just kind of keep tabs on a little bit, because we don't want to yell at people, but at the same time, we don't want to be too soft in our speaking. And the tips of using those consonants and slowing down will actually just help you clear up your voice, even if you have a softer volume. So oftentimes we don't need to talk or speak too loudly. We don't need to really project unless we're talking to someone at a distance, or if we're giving a presentation or something like that. But by simply slowing it down and giving those clear consonants, you're going to be heard. The other thing that's important is, what's the tone of voice like? So you listen to my voice and your voice as well, Ben. We've worked on, can we produce a clear tone? If I kind of talk a little bit breathy like that, there's nothing really wrong with that. But the clarity of your speech, if you're communicating with someone, is going to be less if you have that breathier sound. So I'm going to introduce a really important big S word that you and I have talked about a lot, and that is support.
Oh my gosh, the support.
Your sound. So good news for your viewers is that, support, you do it every time you speak. Okay, so what support is, and I've said this a lot in lessons, and this is what I work on with people, is controlling the sound that comes out using your breath. So if I talk and then it kind of turns into that and I fizzle out, that's no support. But if I talk to you like this and I've got a clear tone and then I finish my sentence nice and strong, here we go, that's speaking with support. So if you want to be a clear communicator, you want to convey emotions and you want to be honest with people and really connect with them, if you can speak with a clear, supported voice that uses the breath, you will be in business. It'll be great.
So good, Nick. As there was also a question here about the mumbling, or like when I get nervous or I'm about to express something, I speak really softly, and then the other person is like, what? And then, so I think the support here is going to really help. And that's something I had forgotten. I used to do that all the time when we started working together. I would trail off at the end of sentences. I would trail off at the end of phrases when we were practicing our vocals together, doing some songs, because I would run out of support. And what it does, it's just, it's a practice, but it also just conveys this overall perhaps lack of confidence, or now the other person is having to ask follow-up questions for clarification. What did you say? I didn't catch that. So all of this is so important in just allowing you to convey yourself with confidence. So you say something one time with clarity. Yeah. With support.
Finish the thought, right? Get to the end of your thought, because, if you're communicating with someone, you want to get to the end of that thought, or that maybe it could be really important. Hopefully it is really important to get the message across. And if you go, hey, I'd love to go hang out with you next weekend, then maybe we can go in this place. They're like, where? And then maybe you've lost out on an opportunity to connect with someone, right?
Right. All right. We are going to now spend a moment talking about flirting, perhaps, surprise, no surprise, in some ways that we can use the voice to flirt. I think everything we've talked about thus far in this part of the conversation will be really helpful. But maybe a couple strategies using the voice that could be really, really flirty. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, so many ways that we can do that. So we talked a little bit about volume, but we can also talk at a very low volume, or maybe we can bring the pitch down a little bit. If we're in potentially close quarters, can we bring the pitch down, but still be clear in our text? Because don't forget, we always want to be clear with what we're saying, but maybe we can bring the volume down. It's almost like ASMR. Bring the volume down and the pitch down.
Yeah.
Right. And that adds a different sort of level. Right. Or maybe as sometimes we do, the pitch goes way up.
Yep.
In our speaking, maybe it's there's a little bit of a flirt there. So there's just a little uppity in pitch. Right. So there's a lot of different ways that you can play with the voice in pitch and volume and the clarity of your text. Maybe you do a little bit of a whisper or something like that, because what happens when we go lower in volume, it kind of brings people to us.
Yes.
Right. So to maybe add on to our earlier conversation about volume is that maybe we intentionally want to bring the volume down so that people are more drawn to us rather than kind of yelling at them. We want to bring them in. So there's a lot of different ways that you can play with it, which is really which is why we want to find that voice, because we want to use it.
Absolutely. I mean, just as a quick example, if you were to ask someone how they're doing, saying, hey, how are you today? Very monotone, very straightforward. We can bring all these layers and all these elements into it. Hey, how you doing today? You pair that with a smile, your eyes are open, you're expressive, maybe you're moving your hands about as I'm doing right now. It's this exact same words, same question. The meaning and how it's received is likely to be so completely different. So play with it and just have fun with it, experiment with it, practice with it. You get to use all the colors, right? All the range, all the varieties of your voice and develop your own really distinct speaking style, flirting style, communication style. Yeah.
And even the way you said, hey, how are you today? So that's just plain old plain.
Yeah.
But hey, how are you today? How are you today? How are you today?
Yes.
How are you today? Right?
Oh my gosh.
Those are like 5 different conversations that can be had.
Yes.
Right. So if your listener, if you're communicating with someone and you give that word emphasis, and you have that rhythm and flow in your conversation, it's going to completely change the way that you communicate.
Yeah.
It's just going to add a level of depth, a level of there's way more intention in that. Like even just what I said, there's way more intention. If I said there's way more intention in that, it doesn't have the same effect.
All different. Gosh, yeah, different. Even the words you emphasize, and you can in just a very short phrase, and you can elongate certain words. Now I'm thinking I could say something like, "Hey, how are you today?" Like
exactly,
totally different. Like very silly, kind of pair it with a laugh. And something else you can do here with your voice that I think is so cool is, yes, use all of these techniques to give your words different meanings and different intentions, but you can also laugh and make pauses with your sort of like vocal pauses, and give lots of range to your listening skills too with your voice that aren't just words.
Yeah.
So
Those
much fun.
Words that they show that you're listening, right?
Yes.
You're talking to someone, they're like, yeah, okay. Not that you want to be intentionally over the top, but to just, it's back and forth. Even if someone's doing the talking, you're on the other side, receiving, you're listening, you're taking that information in.
Absolutely.
So important.
So important. Really, really important part of active listening and just being a present listener. And this is something I do in flirtations. I don't know if anybody has picked up on it. I was really hesitant about it at first as I was listening to other podcasts and just doing research. But as I'm doing an interview, I am oftentimes saying, yeah, right. Like I am interjecting a lot of those vocal, I guess like the measures of reciprocity even is what's coming to mind. Just letting the other person know that, hey, I'm still here, I'm listening, and also letting the flirties know, all the people listening and watching, that yes, I'm here present with the conversation. And I think it just helps. It just helps.
It really does. And I think it's important to know that it's almost like a subliminal messaging thing.
Yes.
It's almost like maybe you don't even notice it. Maybe you're talking to someone and after you're like, oh my gosh, Ben is such a good listener. and I didn't even really think about it, but the whole time you were engaging in the conversation, I could hear your interjections that came through. And if you're someone who's maybe struggling with communication and struggling to find your voice and have these meaningful conversations, then maybe that's a tool that you could just put in your chest, and you can just keep that on your holster in case you need it. Just because it really does make a big difference.
It does. Another crown for your crayon box, your voice toolbox. As I want to add a couple more, as we're starting to finish out this conversation, these always go so quickly. I want to give the flirties a couple more tools. Maybe one or two vocal exercises, warm-ups, something they could do if they feel like, the anxiety or the nerves they're starting to take over, like the words are just getting stuck in my throat. Some things they could do, they could practice beforehand just for a moment, just to be like, okay, I'm connecting to my voice. I'm here. I'm present. I can get the words out. I can do this.
Absolutely. So we've talked a little bit about the tempo and the speed in which you speak. What happens when we get nervous is that time, it doesn't work the same. It's totally different when we're nervous. Things feel like they're moving at 1,000 miles an hour. It's just unbelievable. So one tool that I like to use, and I encourage other people to use as well, is to just take half a second longer to breathe before you say something. So maybe it gives you a chance to take that breath. That's so important, but also to formulate the thought and then say what you have to say. Because we think if we take a breath that it's 10 years long, but it's really not. Conversations just go faster if we're a little bit nervous. So I would recommend slow it down by just taking a breath and then saying what you want to say, right? If you're in a situation where your voice isn't feeling very nice, maybe it's feeling a little dry and it's starting to get the cooler weather starting to creep in now. So basic things like staying hydrated, or maybe doing a couple of vocal warm-ups, which I can introduce a couple right now for the
Yes,
flirties.
Please. I have two in mind that have really helped me, but I want to see what's on your mind.
Perfect. So very simply, and I'll make them mostly non-musical so that we don't get musical anxiety.
Okay.
But I like to imagine that, like, the goal here is to get the voice going.
Yeah.
So maybe you're going on a date, or maybe you're going to meet with someone, have a conversation. Maybe you're going to call them on the phone, something. Maybe you're old school, you've got a landline. And you need to get the voice working so that you can implement all these things that we've talked about. So what I like to do is I imagine my favorite food. I want you to imagine your favorite food. And you're going to just go, So that was kind of lower in my range. And then imagine you take another bite of it, and it's even better this time. So then you go higher in your voice. And then finally you're like, Maybe it's the best bite of food you've ever eaten.
Okay.
But what that's going to do, it's going to get your vocal folds. That's what makes the sound. It's going to get them buzzing, and they're going to be high and low to kind of warm up that range that we talked about. That would be my exercise. What do you have in your mind?
I like that one a lot. I was thinking, going back to the point you were making earlier about really getting your consonants out, is the me and my mummy may go to Miami and me and my mummy may not. That's the one I do like kind of a lot so I can just practice getting those consonants out, just practice speaking really clearly and crisply, and just helps me connect to my voice, work through those nerves a little bit. So me and my mummy may go to Miami and me and my mummy may not.
It's a good one.
Yeah. And we practice in our lessons. We do that with pitch. We do that with tone. We play with range. And so just like what you were doing, you can take it higher. You can take it lower. Can be really helpful. And then the lip trills, which may not translate too well over a recording or microphone, but you just sort of make that buzzing sound with your lips, like like that, which like I need to drink some water. That was a little bit challenging, but as you're doing your lip trills, it just really helps. And you go up and down with your range, with your pitch, just helps activate the voice, the mouth, the lips a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. It's a way just to activate or unlock the sounds that you want to make. You don't want to have a thin, dry sound in your speaking voice. You want to have some depth. You want to have the highs and the lows and the warm colors. And you want to have, if you're trying to be empathetic and, someone says, "Oh, I'm going through a really hard time right now." And you go, "That's too bad." Then that's a really kind of off-putting kind of sound, right? But that's, finding those empathetic, warm sounds. These exercises, they really work well. And there's a reason that actors do them. What are actors trying to do is they're trying to convey emotion, tell stories and communicate. And that's why they do and they do all these funny consonant exercises to get every last detail out of their speech and of their dialogue. That's what you need to do too.
And that's what you're doing with your voice. Yes, it's a tool for communication, of self-expression, but also a tool for connection, expressing empathy, storytelling, so many things. This has been such a fun conversation. I can't wait for the Flirties to take a listen. And I wanted to ask you now, would you share a few bars with the Flirties, maybe from a recent musical, something you're working on? I know they're probably wondering, they want to hear this. Nick Higgs, some of the singing.
Ooh, yes, absolutely. What can I sing? Let's see. What do you have any recommendations?
I mean, we've been working on Homeward Bound. If you know some of the lyrics to that, maybe the first couple phrases, beautiful song. Yeah.
In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, and the sky is clear and red. How about that?
Oh my gosh. Round of applause for Nick Higgs the Singer. Fantastic. My goodness. Thank you so much for being on the show today and just sharing so much incredible information with the Flirties. And only other question is where the Flirties can find you, where you live on the internet, watch your videos and work with you.
Yes, that would be fantastic. So you can find me on YouTube, on Instagram and TikTok at Nick Higgs the Singer. That is my username. And my website is nickhigsthesinger.com. So I make YouTube videos about 2 videos a week. So every Sunday morning, you'll find a video from me and lots of content on TikTok and Instagram. And I'm kind of all over the place. So you'll find me.
So good. I will make sure I have everything linked in the show notes. And if you're looking for someone to help you with your singing, with your vocals, your speaking skills, you're a ballet teacher, this is, call up Nick Higgs. I promise you will not regret it.
Absolutely.
All right, Nick. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ben.
Flirties, that's a wrap on this episode of Flirtations. Thank you so much to our guest, Nick Higgs, for being on the show today and having this conversation with us about finding our voices. And to connect with Nick, follow along, even work with Nick, or maybe you just want to hear him sing a little bit, all of his links are listed down below in the show notes. Flirty, thank you so much for tuning in, for streaming, for listening, wherever you may be in the world. I appreciate you taking the time to just be here and be a part of Flirtations. Yeah. And if you haven't already, I'd love if you would leave a review, a rating, subscribe to the show, share this with someone you want to share some flirt energy with. Yes. Thank you so much for being here. That'll do it from me, Benjamin the Flirt Coach, and Gay Libra here at Flirt Headquarters, officially signing off. Until next time, flirty. Happy flirting.